I'll tell you what, we have a nice little tradition on Cricbuzz Live for having some fun trying to predict scores. Now, just imagine this scenario. There's Michael Vaughan and myself going head to head with predicted scores, looking like something between 348 and 368, or even beyond. There was a point when even Michael Vaughan would have been scared that that 368 could have gone. And suddenly, while we are having this tussle, in comes Joy Bhattacharjya from the back and snatches away a 328 or a 329. Now, it's not about fun and games. It's certainly India will know that they've fallen a few runs short. Good approach, possibly wrong execution. Quick reminder where India finished up at the end of their 50, or well, not really the 50 overs. They couldn't bat the 50 overs. They were out in the 49th over, 48.2 to be exact, 329 all out. Wonderful platform set early with a 100 partnership. Then came Rishabh Pant and Hardik Pandya, and it just didn't find anybody to finish the innings of 329, which was 7 shy of what they had a couple of nights ago. Joy Bhattacharya, Michael Vaughan. Michael, your first reaction to that? Because remember in the 15th over combox, you were going, big score coming.
Yeah, and you know, really on that kind of surface, India should have got to 380. But I have to be honest, if I was India, I'd be quite happy with the way that they've gone about their business. Yes, they've probably come up with a score that looks a little bit light. They've still got them on the deck, and of course they can win. We saw that in the first game. England will go hard, and it can create opportunities in the field. But you know, the mindset and the culture around the Indian one-day team is so important, and I prefer today's approach where they went for it. The disappointment thing for India would be that, you know, the 3 players that got to half centuries didn't go on to get 100. If one of those 3 players that had got 100, you would have seen the 370 plus kind of score. And, you know, full credit for India for kind of changing the way that they played and the approach. There'll be many out there saying, yeah, but they've ended up with the same score. It's about doing it over a period of time. You know, it's about just going out and playing that fashion every single time you play 50 over cricket. And they will definitely become a team where 370 plus on these kind of wickets will be their par score. And they got close to getting there today. They were only a small margin off. But I really enjoyed watching their approach of trying to strike it.
Yeah, I mean, Joy, to be honest, you said 328 I'm taking only because I have nowhere else to go. But in India's case, as Michael said, the fact that the approach was different, could that kind of change the way they might play when they come out? Because even Hardik Pandya said he was disappointed to miss out on 3 figures.
No, I think they did a marvelous attacking job. I think the way Hardik Pandya and Rishabh Pant just counter-attacked, it was unfortunate. Both of them, the way they got out, both of them were looking set for much bigger things. And that, exactly as Michael said, would be the disappointment. But I think we always knew that, we discussed in the 35th over, that if you get past those top 7-8 batsmen to face the likes of Mike Wood, 90 miles an hour, it's not easy for guys, you know, to walk in, and for the likes of Natarajan and all to come and face Mark Wood. It's not going to be easy. So that was the crucial thing. It's that thin underbelly that you have right at the end, you know, 9, 10, 11. And that's exactly what happened. Once they got to that point, once they got that extra wicket, it was done. And of course, it didn't help that Kunal was completely off form. And it's such a marvelous thing, this game, you know. One day you hit everything, it goes out of the ground. The next day you get 30-odd balls and you can't hit a boundary. It's just not happening for you.
It's one brother at a time is allowed. That's the rule. One brother at a time. I think even the Karans found that out. But very important part of that interview with Hardik Pandya at the end of the innings, Michael, was not about him missing 100, was not about how well he hit the ball. It was about, are you going to bowl? Answer, yes, I am going to bowl.
Well, there you go. That India have got even more seamers. That's surprising, actually, in the team selection. If he was going to bowl, why would you want another seamer? Maybe, you know, particularly having seen the pitch now, we've seen a little bit of grip in the surface. Maybe India are a spinner light with their attack. If Hardik was going to bowl and they knew that before the game, you'd have thought they would have played the second spinner. But, you know, the one positive that I see from an Indian perspective is that I do think those slow ball cutters, for the first time in 3, have just gripped slightly. Not a great deal. It's still a very good service. But every now and again, we saw one from Reece Topley kind of bounce quite hugely to KL Rahul. So there might be a little bit more there for the slow balls. I don't think there's a great deal there for swing. I don't think there's a great deal there for putting it in the slot, because if you do, you're going to go quite a long distance into the stand. But I think if India are smart and tactically very astute, they certainly can defend this kind of total. But just strap yourselves in, because England will try and chase it down in 40, 42 overs. They certainly won't try and play the long game. They'll try and get it done and dusted. I'd say usually that they'll try and get on the plane home early, but they're not. They're all staying for the IPL, so they might as well take the time.
Yeah, no real flights available out of Pune immediately. But yeah, interesting thought, Joy, because if you did know Hardik Pandya was going to give you overs, even if it's a few, then a Chahal for Kuldeep rather than Natarajan for Kuldeep may have made sense.
I think it's got to do with something else. I think Virat is dieting, and he's been told to stay off carbs. So he was told no kulcha. He just took it the wrong way, and we have a situation where neither of Kuldeep nor Chahal is playing. Yeah, I find it very difficult to understand. I mean, there is absolutely to have a situation where neither of them is playing, and that this is the kind of service where you've seen the ball can do it once in a while, and if you're a skilled enough bowler. And there's no doubt in the world that Yadavendra Chahal is one of the most skilled bowlers in this format of the game. I mean, I just cannot understand it. I find it difficult to believe. I'm really, really terrified of India's over rate in this innings, because knowing now with that fourth fast bowler, so bowling about 42, 43 overs of pace, I don't know what time the match is going to end.
And what ratio will be Hardik to Krunal in terms of those overs, how many they'll get in from both of them, that we'll also wait and see. But yeah, if anything, a country of spin was facing the opposition, which had two wrist spinners. Yes, one part-time in a sense in Liam Livingstone and Adil Rashid, who also bowled out his quota of 10 overs. 2 for 81, yes, went for 9 in his last over. They had to get that 1 over out. But Moin Ali, you got that one part of it right, Michael, that he wouldn't bowl his 10 overs, but the 7 that he did, he bowled pretty decently, especially that wicket of Virat Kohli.
Yeah, the key wicket, that's that what I'm talking about is, just a little bit of spin. You just got it to spin back a little bit more than Virat expected. I mean, he's second best in economy there, Moeen Ali, just under 6s. Mark Wood was outstanding, and it looked to me like Mark Wood has got some kind of sickness, some kind of issue. So a tremendous effort from Mark Wood, but yeah, I mean, I like the way that India went about the business. I thought that that period when Rishabh Pant and Hardik got together, I guess 10 years ago, you'd have been crying out for them to just knock it around and give themselves a chance. While they went for the modern approach, which was to hit the ball into the stand, hitting Moeen Ali for 20 in 1 over. And that is the way the modern game has to be played, particularly on these kind of surfaces. You get every now and again, you go back to a World Cup final in 2019, some of the pitches in the World Cup in 2019 weren't the 300, 350 wickets. There were 220s, 240s, really good, clever games of cricket. But, we pretty much know in India on these kind of surfaces that you've just got to go for it, and they're so good, these players. I mean, we have a debate here in the UK all the time about the modern player and, the boundaries and the bat sizes. And I always go, wait a minute, just have a look at the talent of what's on show. The striking ability of 3 or 4 in every single team is second to none. They're just better because they've been so used to doing it in training and through T20 crickets. It's trained in their brain that if the ball's in their arc, it goes into the stand. That's exactly what a modern one-day cricketer needs to be thinking. So it was really good to see India play in that fashion.
But yeah, just to complete the England bowling, Joy, Mark Wood was outstanding. Obviously, we're not going to turn around and say, well, if he was that good, why didn't he bowl his 10? Because we saw he was struggling in the middle with the heat. He fell 3 times in 1 over, went off, came back. So the fact that he came back for that second spell was impactful is what we need to focus on.
No, absolutely. I think his captain will be really pleased with him because he gave them the impact. I really believe with tailenders that extra 5-10 kilometers an hour makes a huge difference. I mean, Mark Wood is somebody you do not play in first cluster with in India on a regular basis. You'll see a bowler like that maybe once a year or in international cricket or during the IPL. And that's just the thing, that you bring him back. Fast bowlers and leg spinners are traditionally good at the tail. They tend to be tail moppers, and that's exactly what Mark Wood did. He set it up beautifully. The other thing is that, Adil Rashid, we look at his analysis and we say that, 81 for 2, 81 he's gone for, that's, economy of rate of 8.1. He got rid of 2 set openers. That was very vital because, see, Rohit, again, if you look at the pattern of Rohit's centuries, okay, Rohit hits big ones. Rohit rarely hits the 110s and 120s. When Rohit gets a century, tends to go 140, 150. He's hit 3 double centuries. So to get those 2 guys at that stage of the game, I thought was very important. 81 for 2 just doesn't tell you the story of how important it was.
And there were two beauties, Michael. I mean, from a leg spinner's point of view, a wrong on sneaking through a batsman like Rohit Sharma, and then Shikhar Dhawan, who looked so well set for another big one, was again deceived by a wrong on and hit it straight back to Adil Rashid in a good return catch.
Yeah, I mean, Rohit's dismissal was just beautiful bowling. And every now and again, you just got to stick your hand up and say, well bowled. But I think Shikhar Dhawan, he'll be disappointed with that. That was a soft dismissal. In the scheme of the game, he's seen a lot of Adil Rashid. You can't be playing across that googly. Maybe he didn't pick the googly, but that it's quite a soft, easy, kind of shot down the ground. I'd have preferred to have seen him get out caught on the edge. That's my belief in this modern game. I don't want my players kind of just playing in a timid fashion and giving a bowler a nice, easy return chance. I'd rather get him caught at the deep mid-wicket boundary or trying to play a big sweep shot, being really aggressive rather than being a little bit timid. So Rashid has that ability. He has that ability to just get good players out, at key moments for England. He's done it for quite a few years now.
Yeah, it was a strange one, Joy, because the timid shot, to use Michael Vaughan's word, came during an innings where he looked anything but. Between the two of them, he was the aggressor, timing it beautifully. Some of the strokes looked vintage Dhawan.
Absolutely. I mean, 103 of 91, for me, it was Shikhar Dhawan. Shikhar Dhawan today, especially through the offside as well, just, that bat flow that he has when he's perfectly there. And look at that record against England. I mean, that's absolutely this 67 of 56, 10 fours. And Shikhar traditionally hits fours. And if you look at IPL records over the last 10, 12, 15 years, many times he's hit the maximum number of fours. Shikhar and Gautam Gambhir, they're guys who like to play on the ground. They'll go after the spinners, they'll try and loft the spinners, but they won't try and loft the fast bowlers. And Shikhar just showed how good a player he was. It's just that he'll be kicking himself because one of those two guys, if you've got 100 on the board, one of those guys has to get a big one. Just has to get a big one. Leave alone Rishabh Pant and all. So you had four guys who had a chance at a big score. Okay, none of them got it off, and yet you reached 329. That I have to say is fairly, fairly creditable in that sense.
Yeah, you can have a look at that. I mean, you've got two big men, both got out at what a lot of people refer to as a lucky number of 7. Wasn't for Virat Kohli or KL Rahul. One was a gift, and the worst delivery Livingston will bowl in his life, a rank full toss, a one-handed swipe at a good catch from Moeen Ali. And of course, Virat Kohli was probably the ball of the day from Moeen Ali. And the time, I reckon, Joy, Virat would have walked back thinking as much about his dismissal as he would be thinking about, where's my extra spinner? Because that turned.
Absolutely. He'll be looking at it and he'll be wondering whether he should turn his arm, somebody should turn their arm. See, that's the one thing that this Indian team doesn't have that it used to before. At one point in time, you could have 8-9 bowlers. I think, of course, the rules have changed. The one-day cricket rules have changed about the number of players that you can keep outside has also changed. So that fifth bowler now needs to be much better than he needed to be maybe 5-6 years back. He had more protection then. You don't have that much protection for the guy now. So it's just that much more difficult. The balls are new from both sides. And therefore, again, the older ball is that much more difficult to hit. So all that is playing a part in the demise of that. Now they're saying if you're a fifth bowler, you need to be halfway decent. You can't just go there and roll around. And that's changed the game in many ways as well.
Michael, there are many things you can attribute to Rishabh Pant's success. Of course, the ability to hit that one-handed shot, which was really imperious. Once again, he did it. A ball that turned a little bit and yet found its way into the stands. But really, coming to the fitness of Rishabh Pant and the weight that he's lost, I think that would be a real key component of Rishabh Pant's turnaround, in a sense, the loss of weight.
Sorry, Gautam, I missed you there. I think I had a few technical issues.
Yeah, fine. We'll come back to you, Michael. Joy, quickly, you can pick that up.
Rishabh, he was talking, Michael, he was talking about Rishabh's, the kind of fitness that he's showing now, that one-handed shot. And that's something I also, they were describing it there, that it's actually he's allowing his arm to get free so the shot doesn't get pulled back. Michael, you've scored many, many more runs than most people in this commentary box ever have. So why do you think he takes that hand off? How does it help him sort of loft that shot, Rishabh?
You know, I'll be honest with you. I didn't score too many white ball runs, so we're all in the same category when we're talking about white ball cricket. He's just a freak. He just does things his way. You know, I wouldn't recommend that many try and play like Rishabh Pant because he's so unique. The one thing I would say to younger players watching Rishabh Pant is just his mindset. He looks so relaxed. You know, when he goes out and the pressure was on, he just looks like he's just playing in the park. You know, he's not playing for India. He's just playing a game of cricket that he's played for many, many years, whether he's playing for the under-11s, the under-15s, under-19s, now the national team. It's just a game of cricket to him. And that's such a refreshing attitude. And it's very difficult to have that attitude. But, you know, that's the only kind of copying system that I would ask and say to younger players following Rishabh Pant. It's difficult to copy his technique, but you certainly can copy his mindset and have a real refreshing approach. He just looks like he's enjoying batting. He just looks like he's having a bit of fun. He backs himself. He's confident, obviously. And this unique technique is so difficult to bowl to. And when he starts flicking it and not moving his feet again, he generally goes against everything that coaching tells you to do. He does the opposite, but it works. He's brilliant.
Well, that's the one-handed shot. That's the chatter behind the stumps, the character that he is. But let me ask a serious question. Is Rishabh Pant the biggest gain to Indian cricket in modern times? Because when he came in, you were not sure which format will he fit in, which format won't he fit in? Is he a bit overweight? Answer was yes. He's become leaner, he's become trimmer, and he's contributing. And of course, it's not just a chatter behind the stumps, Michael. He has definitely improved his keeping as well.
Yeah, I mean, his box office. I can only tell you from here in the UK that I've got a 15-year-old boy, and he watches all the cricket, but he then nips off to do things on his, you know, whatever they've got, the PlayStations, and he has to do a bit of schoolwork. He might go into the garden, have a game of cricket, a game of football. He might, you know, FaceTime his mates for a chat. As soon as Rishabh Pant goes out to bat, he's in that room. He is running through the garden, wherever he is, he's shouting, Rishabh's in, and he just sits and watches Rishabh Pant bat. That's the effect that a player like Rishabh Pant can have on the next generation, because they all love the way that he bats, and you know things are going to happen, and he's making it look very, very easy. Without question, Gav, he is, you know, he's been around for a while. You know, it's not just that he's just arrived. He's been around the international scene for 2 or 3 years, and we've all seen his talent. We've all seen what he could become. He's now becoming very consistent. So without question, over the 3 formats, India have a match winner.
And the box office, very importantly, Joy, is not just a 2-minute YouTube feature. It's a proper feature film now when Rishabh Pant comes out.
Absolutely. Test centuries in England, test centuries in Australia. I mean, what are we talking about? A guy who plays 3 formats for you. I'll tell you, there's a very interesting thing. One of the other things I was noticing was a shift in Indian cricket. So if you look at it, India traditionally, Dhoni, what does Dhoni do? In exactly the same circumstances, if Dhoni had walked in at 4, where Hardik Pandya had walked in, Hardik and Rishabh, they would have soaked in the pressure. They would have soaked in the pressure, taken 1s, 2s, and the last 5 to 10 overs would have tried to go for it. Not even the last 10. I'm knowing Dhoni, he would exasperate us towards the end and saying, okay, when is he going to go for it? And then finally, he'll start swinging, getting 12 or 15 in the last 5 overs. That's what he used to do. And that used to win matches for India at a time when the totals used to be like that. So point of also is that Dhoni's method of soaking in pressure and sort of playing for the long term and then leaving it all to the end to do works also better if you're chasing. It doesn't really work when you're trying to set a target, because over the last few years, it's also happened that a lot of targets that's been set by Dhoni have not been adequate because they've just taken too much time to get going. So I think Rishabh is exactly the opposite. He's of the kind that he will not allow the bowler to get on top. And if you see the partnerships, if you see what these 2 guys have done, that's exactly what they did. They didn't allow the bowling to dominate at that phase. Had they dominated that phase, I'm telling you, you're not looking at 328, you were looking under 300. It was definitely under 300. If those 2 guys had knocked it around for 10 overs before going, you wouldn't have got above 300. And therefore, 328 is still an extremely competitive score. It may not be enough, but at least the approach that they did got them here. It wouldn't have got close had we had to use the old approach.
Well, now we're looking at the run chase. That's what India have put on no matter what direction they took. The car occasionally went off the tracks, then came back. When it was on, it was going full tilt, and Hardik Pandya will be one of the bowlers. Michael Vaughan, England would have at one point in time told themselves in the field, we might be chasing 375. They walk off the field knowing it's 50 runs less than that. Will that change anything in their approach?
No, they'll just go for it. I think at one point they were thinking 400, 410. And I think that's why India deserve a lot of credit and praise, because they were so close, India, so close to getting that big score that realistically, yeah, an England team could chase 380, 400, but it's very unlikely. But England will be delighted. They'll be, you got Mark Wood, who doesn't. That's all in the past. If England come out and think that it's just going to be exactly the same as it was 2 nights ago, they may come unstuck. So you've still got to give yourself a chance. You've still got to create that foundation. Bairstow, when he gets in, he goes, but he does generally give himself 20, 30 balls to get him first. Jason Roy tends to go a bit harder sooner. And Ben Stokes, again, if you look at his innings from the other evening, he waited pretty much till Krunal Pandya, and then he went, right, that's my matchup. I'm going to take him downtown. So it is aggressive the way that England play, and they look, and if you kind of have an overview of the way they play, you think that they try and hit every ball for 6. They don't do that really. They're quite a smart team as well, but they do like to get the job done quickly. They're always in a rush. So if they're going to win, I don't think it'll be in the 50th over. It'll be more like the 42nd, but that might give India a great chance of getting some wickets.
Yeah, that's the one. Remember, we were talking about keeping wickets preserved in those first 10 overs. They did that, but we're also talking about taking those couple of wickets in the first 10. They've ticked one box. Now they need to tick the other against a pair who have got 50, 50, 100 plus, 100 plus, 100 plus in the last 5 innings, Joy.
Yeah, absolutely. And India's, the opening attack, I think what's happening now is every time, either you've had Bumrah or you've had Bhuvanesh, you haven't had both these guys bowling together for a fairly long time now. So what's happening is if you see, they're playing Bhuvaneshwar out. They're not taking unnecessary risks against him. The English batsmen are telling each other, this is the danger guy. He's going to swing it a bit and he can do it both ways. Just play Bhuvaneshwar out. Get 2 or 3 and over. If he gives you the loose ball, hit it. But don't go after him. They're generally trying to intimidate and collar the guy at the other end. And they did exactly the same thing against it when just Bumrah was playing. That they'd watch Bumrah very carefully, but they'd go after the guy at the other end. So that's what it is. They're an intelligent team. They'll take their chances when they have it. And it usually isn't against your best bowler. So it's a calculated assault. I'd be interested in knowing, is Bairstow completely fit? Because he'd gone off. Is he fit to resume and open the batting? If that's... Yeah. So if Bairstow's back here, you would have to say that they look good for it.
I think if you look at the last couple of chases, that England have really had, they've had a bit of a leg up facing Kuldeep Yadav. They really have dominating Kuldeep Yadav, and it's almost been... It's been quite a difficult watch because Kuldeep's been struggling. England have been dominating him. The fact that he's not there and Natarajan is, Natarajan is a fantastic white ball bowler. Not been bowling a great deal, so he might be a bit rusty, but I think that's a really good change in terms of a left arm. I'd like to see him one more spinner, but I think the left arm might just offer something of a wicket-taking ability for Virat Kohli and his team. But it'll be a great view. I always sit back and I've always say, Gautam, England in white ball cricket, I am relaxed, but when they bat, I kind of watch thinking, what's going to happen? You know the way that they're going to play, but you also know that the way that they play sometimes brings the opposition into the game. So it's a bit like Rishabh Pant when he comes out to bat. You go and watch. When England bat, you make sure you're watching.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. As Michael was saying it, if he hadn't mentioned Rishabh Pant, I was going to come to you, Joy, saying that's how we feel about Rishabh Pant. Kind of keeps us on edge, but we're still enjoying the entertainment. But no matter what, it will be entertainment when England chase. The question is, will it be like game 1 or will it be like game 2? Because on both days, they didn't reach beyond around the 42nd over. Once they chased it, once they capitulated. So it's going to be the same England coming out. It's just that which way will the car go with the Skoda and the Ferrari? When will it come out first? Let's have a look at what these two teams have done before we wrap up here on Cricbuzz Live. This has been their performance after the 2019 World Cup in ODIs. Have a look at India. This is what India have done. Lost the last 2 series, both away, yes, against New Zealand and Australia. And for England, it's been a draw, a win, and a loss. So not too much to read into from England's performance, Michael. but certainly India will want to arrest that lack of momentum.
No, but this is a great opportunity for England. You told a great story about 84, 85 and Graham Fowler's wife and the like, Paul Downton, the captain, taking the umpires off as soon as England were above that rate. To win a one-day series in India, it just tells you it's so difficult. So it's a great opportunity for England. I know it's not a World Cup, it's not a trophy of any kind of note in this era, but it'd be great for the players when you think there's no Owen Morgan, no Sam Billings, no Joe Root, no Jofra Archer. It'll just almost strengthen England's depth in white ball 50-over cricket that they've gone to India and won a one-day series without some of their main players. It'll be a great achievement.
Yeah, when you put it in perspective, somehow the way Joy Bairstow and company have been going up top and that partnership, you almost forget about those four names that Michael Vaughan just mentioned. And we've seen at least two of them very recently in the T20I series. And of course, Root is always around, Joy.
Also, look, it's a bit of an illusion also, but because Joy and Bairstow are just giving you such good starts that you don't start to notice. By the time they're done with it, England have 100 odd on the board and about 17, 18, 19 overs. So all the other batsmen have the platform to work on. I'd be really interested to see what happens if India gets a wicket. If they're 30 for 2, how does England play? Because we really don't know. And if England is 30 for 2, without Root, without Morgan, without Sam Billings, I'd be interested in seeing. So the thing is that there are two things that have not happened before. India has not got early wickets. England has not lost early wickets. And these are the two crucial things. But this could change. One Jaffa, one delivery, one wicket, Bhuvaneshwar gets it, somebody takes a rash shot, things could change very fast. This England side is untested if they lose wickets very fast because they've had a much stronger lineup before and they're missing quite a few of their regulars in that mid order. It's the top order is just been so good that we don't notice.
Well, for the trivia-minded, when we keep talking about those stats of how often have India taken wickets in the last, 80 overs is what we mentioned, only one solitary wicket's been taken. Who's the wicket taker? T. Natarajan in the first 10 overs, and he's in the side today in place of Kuldeep Yadav. So that might just be the X factor or the T factor for India. Will it make a difference? Will they pick up 2 wickets? And if so, who can play a Joe Root and steady things? Will it be Malan as he does, or will it be Ben Stokes to try and play a different kind of role? So many possibilities. It makes for a fascinating run chase. We'll assess it all in the 15th over on Cricbuzz Combox, and of course have much more fun when we all come together at the end of the series to assess everything on Cricbuzz Live.